Hello and welcome to the Crypto Sky podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Crypto Sky, and today we've got a very special episode. I've recently conducted my first interview with Mr. Peter McCormack. And for those of you who don't know who Peter is, he is a crypto investor, trader, and brings a ton of great content to the space. You can follow him on Twitter at whatbitcoindid. You can check his website out at whatbitcoindid.com. He also has a great podcast. He has a blog on his website and also does a weekly newsletter. He brings a lot of great content to the crypto space, and I really suggest you guys checking him out. And as far as the interview goes, Peter and I really had a great conversation. We talked about everything from how he got into crypto and how he was able to quit his full-time job and focus fully on crypto, to topics such as which sector he is most bullish on in 2018, and where he sees the overall crypto community being in 5 to 10 years. I'm really thankful Peter allowed me this time to interview him. I think it turned out great. I hope you guys enjoy the interview. Let's get to it. Hi, Peter. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the podcast.
No problem, Sky.
All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is just kind of give us a background of how you got into crypto.
Okay, man. Well, listen, look, firstly, very cool that you're doing this. It's always good for people to be out there spreading the knowledge of crypto and helping everyone. In terms of my background, well, I kind of got into crypto in two phases. So the first time I got involved was back in 2013, where I was working in tech, but in a web development company. So you're always aware of new technologies coming around, and I heard of this thing called Bitcoin, and I heard about the prices move very quickly, and it just purely on for economic reasons, I decided to invest in it. But I wasn't buying Bitcoin directly to begin with. I was trading it on a website called Plus 500, which allows you to do leverage buys. And I really didn't know I wasn't buying Bitcoin, and I was just buying a paper contract. But anyway, I was buying it, I was selling it, made a lot of money very quickly without really knowing what I was doing. You know, I'd go to bed and the prices will have shot up and made a lot of money. And then every now and again, we back in 2013, we would have these flash crashes where the price would crash for a matter of seconds and then come back. Because the price had crashed, it would cause something called a margin call, whereby my account wasn't sufficiently funded to cover the loss, even though it's for a matter of seconds, and then my position would be closed. So very quickly, I made a lot of money and lost a lot of money, and kind of licked my wounds. And I did have a go at trading tech stocks with the same failure, and kind of got away from it and just kind of ignored it. And over the next couple of years, I saw the price of Bitcoin had just fallen more and more from, the high of, it was about $1,200 in 2013. I just thought, oh God, this thing's dying, but not really paying too much attention, just like, oh, it's dropped again, and then I started to notice the price had started to rise again, and was thinking, oh, should I get back in? But thought, didn't think much of it. And then at Christmas 2016, I've told this story before. It's kind of sad, but bear with me. My mum was sick. My mum was she was dying from cancer, and we wanted to get her some medical treatment that you could only buy with Bitcoin on the internet. I think people probably know what that is.
Okay.
So being somebody who knew how to do it, my dad told me to go and buy some, and I bought a Bitcoin on Coinbase, which I didn't know of before. I'd never used it before, and it seemed kind of cool. And then I was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of cool. And what's this Ethereum thing? So I read about Ethereum, and then I just started thinking, okay, seems like this is coming back. So I didn't really have I'm near 40 now, and I don't have a pension. So I thought I would take some of my savings and put it into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you never know, in 10, 20 years time, that might be a nice pension.
Yeah.
And then just from kind of Q1 2017, this crazy roller coaster ride has started, whereby, it's gone from putting a few bit of money into something which is now my life career and dominates everything I do.
Wow, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's probably a little difficult to share.
Yeah, but you know what? No, it's fine. It's okay. It's funny as well. Do you know what? I was chatting to my dad about it. We've just had the anniversary of Mum passing, and I was chatting to my dad about it, saying, you know what the strange thing is, because he's obviously seen me going from. I used to have an advertising agency, and I quit work, and he's seen me going from not knowing what to do with my career to now being so lucky and fortunate that I get to travel the world and meet people. I've been to America probably because I'm based out near London. I've probably been to America 10 times in the last year. I've got this podcast and website. I've made some pretty good money where I've been able to do nice things for my family. And I said to Dad, you know what the funny thing is that Mum doesn't know about any of this. She's not seen any of this. This all happened really because of her. So it's kind of this strange situation whereby life changed because of my, good things sometimes can come out of sad things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I actually have a family member who's been affected by breast cancer, so I know kind of some of the effects by that. But
Man.
so I kind of want you to talk about you mentioned you started trading, and then you just shared with us that story. How did you make the transition from just kind of trading on part time to going full time into crypto, where you've been traveling and creating content?
It was yeah, there wasn't a specific thing that happened. It was more an evolution, that just kind of happened over time. So what happened was like I said, I decided to put an amount of money in, a decent amount, bought Ethereum and bought Bitcoin, and then as the price started to go up, I kind of if anyone invested, anyone finds crypto, once the money starts to move up, you just become intrigued by it. And I started to become more intrigued by the technology and the infrastructure, because back in 2013, it was all about price. But when I came back this time, there was more an infrastructure, a lot more companies involved, Coinbase doing what I think incredible things, despite what everyone says. So I was kind of a little bit more excited about it. I thought there would be an opportunity to make some money. So I then started to diversify my portfolio. I got myself a Poloniex account and started buying and a few things. Again, not really know what I'm doing. I would say probably Q1, up till about March, I was just randomly buying things and making money. And then, yeah, I know it's crazy. And then there was one month, was a significant month, where my portfolio jumped something like 150% in a month, and I was like, wow, holy shit, this is something real. So I started taking it a bit more seriously, but again, not really knowing what I was doing. I'm honest to admit, like many people, I just got very lucky in a bull market. But what what kind of happened is that I had friends who were hearing about Bitcoin and saying to me, Pete, how do you get into this? And so I would talk to them about it, and it started happening so much. I decided to save time. I wrote this email. It was called an introduction to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency or something, which had sections in it like what it is, why it's important, how you buy it, how you store it, security. Like a minor manual. If you go on my website now, read my beginner's guide. It's not far off that. So what I did is I would send that out to my friends. So that probably went out to 100 or so people. What came off the back of that, people started then asking me more questions. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what. So I set up this private Facebook group for my friends, like 150 people, where they could ask me questions and I would share what I'm doing. And I was writing articles about crypto and why it's important. And my friend Justin, who lives out in LA, was a part of the group. So I occasionally go out to see him. I traveled out to see him and tell him catch up. And he was saying, because he's a content manager, and he was saying, look, Pete, this content's really good. You should turn it into a blog. I was like, okay. So I turned it into a blog, wrote all the articles, and around the start of the summer, I started writing more detailed articles. And the blog itself started to take off. And I also started to realize, I didn't really know what I was doing with trading. So I started to take the trading more seriously. And I would say, even now, I would say I'm an amateur trader. But between then and now, I've been kind of splitting my time in two, whereby half my time I'm doing my best to learn as much as I can about trading and have my own kind of trading strategy, which is more long term. And the rest of the time, what I prefer to do, which is create the content, which obviously now I have the podcast, I have Medium, I have the email, and yeah, so it's just kind of there's no single point. It's just this situation has just evolved over time.
Okay, definitely, definitely. What are a couple things that you would tell yourself if you were kind of starting your crypto journey all over again?
Oh, well, apart from the obvious hindsight and saying put all your money in and buy
Yeah,
everything in Ethereum,
buy everything you can.
yeah, and then at this point put everything you made from Ethereum into Ripple, and then at this point everything you made in Ripple into TRX, and then be a multi-millionaire. You
Of
avoid that
course,
the
yeah.
obvious one. The most, what would I tell myself now? I would tell myself to consume as much knowledge as I can. Just really try and understand the technology behind it and also how to trade. And with trading, I would say to myself, the most important things to learn are trading psychology and control of emotions. Because psychology, the trading psychology and emotions are, fear and greed they talk about are the things that lead to the biggest mistakes. You fear missing out and you chase something and then you lose, or you fear something going up is going to crash, so you sell too early. So getting control of those emotions, understand market cycles, probably that's the first thing. The second thing I would probably tell myself is to I probably if that's a tough one, probably tell myself to start the content earlier because I actually enjoy that more than trade. I don't really enjoy trading. I do it as a means, but I really enjoy the writing, and I wish I'd have started that and the podcast earlier.
Okay. So you mentioned you're now a full-time trader and you also do your content. So when you're trading, do you like to take more of a short-term perspective or do you look more long-term?
No, much more long term. I don't. The problem with short term perspective is that because these markets are so volatile, it's essentially a full time job. You need to be looking at these screens all day, every day. And because they're 24/7, 365 markets, you can be doing it from the moment you wake to the moment you go to bed and over the weekend. And, I've got two children and I have a life outside of this. So I don't really want to spend all my time on this. So that's the first choice. Secondly, I know from speaking to other traders, I've outperformed a lot of them who are short-term traders. And I think the reason being is I've been lucky with some trades and I've benefited from compound growth by just staying in the market for a lot longer. So I tend to take more long-term positions. Bitcoin, my view on Bitcoin and probably Monero, they are like 5 to 10 years. See where we end up with those. All my other trades are ideally I'm in for something for no less than 3 months, kind of 3 to 6 months in a market cycle, and then I am probably sometimes maybe a year. But I'm taking the long-term view and trying to ride out the volatility.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Monero. I've done some research on it. I think it'll have a huge next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. When people talk about they trade to accumulate Bitcoin, I trade to accumulate Bitcoin and Monero. I'm kind of in this space where I'm thinking, if the market crashes in the next couple of years and loads of these technologies get wiped out, what's going to exist with, reasonable value? And I'm much more, I'm much more in the camp of currencies in that their use case is proven. People are spending Bitcoin. I have bought things with cryptocurrencies online, internationally. I spend money using crypto almost pretty much every week. Whereas with protocols and dApps, they're still to be proven. So I'm much more in the currency camp. I think the use case is there. I think Bitcoin and Monero are probably the two strongest bets right now. But I'm also fans of Litecoin and Dash, but I accumulate those for long term.
Okay, and that's something I wanted to ask you. And you mentioned currencies. So is currencies your favorite sector as far as 2018 being the most bullish?
No, I would say currencies are my favorite sector long term bullish.
Okay.
Like if you said to me you could buy three coins and but only three coins and you could only sell them in 10 years, it would for me probably be Bitcoin and Monero, two of them. And then I would be picking possibly a Litecoin. If I wasn't being using my own bias, you maybe even consider Bitcoin Cash because it does have its use case. But it would be three currencies because currencies have the widest use case in that we all globally need to spend money. So they have the widest use case and they are actually being used now and there is a reason for them to exist. Also, banks are going to increasingly add crypto wallets, and most likely they will support currencies. Probably not Monero because it's privacy currency. But I think short term, I think it's going to be very hard for Bitcoin to do a 20x again this year. It's not that it's impossible, but to do that year on year is very hard. Whereas there are protocols, dApps, other smaller other opportunities that can do 20, 50, 100x this year. It's going to happen less, but they're the kind of items that I'm looking for, but ultimately to grow my position in Bitcoin and Monero.
Okay, definitely. So along your journey, what are maybe 2 or 3 of the most important resources that you have found and kind of used to help learn?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. So I started out with Reddit. Reddit for me was a very good place to get a feel for the momentum of the industry, crypto and blockchain as an industry, in that you regularly see the important news coming out from people within specific camps around their coin. So whatever coin I owned, I would follow the subreddit, and that was really good for the momentum. After that, it became Twitter, and Twitter's really good for getting trading ideas, get a feel for what's coming out, what other traders believe in. I find it's a really good first layer research. I've made some great trades based on people I really respect in Twitter who've recommended things. Crypto Rand, he's really good. Day Trader Nick, they've both been very good at putting things out there that I've looked at and bought because of. So I create Twitter lists. So if you go into my Twitter profile, there's a whole bunch of lists, elite traders, macro guys. So that's my second resource. My third resource would be podcasts. I really enjoy Laura Shin's podcast, Unchained. I think the Crypto Street podcast has some really good episodes with some very good traders. I also sometimes listen to the A16Z podcast, which is the Andreas Howitson one. That's not crypto focused because they're a venture capital, but they have the occasional crypto episode that's really good. And I find podcasts are, if you're going out running or sat in the car, they're a really good way to, have a kind of focused session listening to a specific subject.
Okay, definitely. And kind of describe what you think about Goldman Sachs and some of these different venture capital firms kind of starting to get into crypto.
Well, it's natural. That's what I think, dude. I just think it's only natural in that I think crypto has been if you only have a light understanding of crypto, like if you've never invested or mildly invested in, and you don't have the information bias of having made money, I think it's very hard for you to fully understand what it is. Like Mark Carney's coming out discrediting it recently. I think most of them just ignored it, thought it was some weird fad, people just spending money online, not really understanding the power of a decentralized global currency and decentralized applications and what the blockchain means. Increasingly, though, the banks are realizing this isn't going away. It isn't a case of love the blockchain, hate Bitcoin. The blockchain can't be untangled now, and you can't divorce Bitcoin from blockchain. So what I mean by that is that the adoption rates are huge, the benefits are there to be seen, and these then present a real threat to traditional banks. If you look at the high street banks, they make their money on a fractional reserve banking. So you deposit your money with them, Sky, and then they lend that out to others and charge an interest on it. If we are increasingly holding money in crypto, it means we've got less in the bank, which means they have less to lend out, which means they have to borrow from other banks, which is more expensive. So it affects their income. If we're spending money with crypto, it means they make less money with their debit fees. Now, these threats are quite small now, probably similar to when people were first getting DVDs in the post rather than going to Blockbuster or streaming films. But the change can be very quick, and someone like Blockbuster didn't see it coming. The smart banks understand this is coming; it's not going away. US regulation is coming in to support crypto in terms of wealth creation within its regulatory framework. So this isn't going away. So the banks have a choice. They can ignore it or they can adapt. I think the smart ones will adapt. I think the purchase of the purchase of Poloniex by Circle will prove to be very shrewd and probably very cheap. I
I think
think,
it was definitely underpriced.
oh, like hugely underpriced or possibly fair price for now. But I think what will happen, we will see other consolidation in the next couple of years, and things will be going for much higher prices. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if a large global bank, isn't looking at Coinbase thinking, hold on, this solves our entire infrastructure, regulatory requirements to have crypto as part of our bank, but they will be paying probably billions for it. So I think these guys coming in is validation and proof that the crypto is here to stay. I met this really smart guy, John Pfeffer, who's done this really cool white paper, and I always repeat this point. He said, where he was like, "Do you think in 100 years time, 1,000 year time, when we're all flying around in our Millennium Falcons, we will be using lumps of metal dug from the ground as a store of value?" Of course not. We need something which we can transfer digitally easily, and that is crypto.
Definitely. So to kind of piggyback off that, to a friend maybe or someone you've met who doesn't believe in crypto or maybe just thinks it's a bubble, what would be a couple of things you would tell them?
Well, the bubble's a really interesting point because it is a bubble. But the term bubble is often used negatively. But actually, bubbles are, if you ignore the fact that certain retail investors will get burnt during a bubble and lose money, they are actually a good thing. Because what a bubble does is bubble brings capital into the markets to test and validate whether something is real. Because people with money want to make more money. Venture capitalists, they will say they'll invest in 10 projects expecting 8 not to work. They will throw money at the projects looking for the 2 that work and work substantially well. So a bubble brings capital into the markets. A bubble is also validation in that it proves there's something of interest there. We are a capitalist society. We all want to make money. So a bubble is a good thing. We are in one. This bubble will continue to expand, and at some point within the next 2 years, it will crash heavily. I think probably in 2019, because I think that's around the time a number of these protocols and dApps will start releasing global products into the market, and the economics will be tested, and most will fail. So, and out of that, what we are looking for, I mean, I don't know, Sky, how old are you, man?
I'm 18.
You're 18, right? So, gosh, you won't remember the first dot-com bubble, but when this happened when the internet first came out, what happened? There were a number of companies that failed when it crashed. Companies that had no real business model or no customer base or such. But out of that, we still got Amazon, we got Google, we eventually got Facebook. And the interesting thing is also, we might not know what's going to come. We might not know what the successful projects will be. When the internet first developed, it was all about e-commerce. Look, here's this new way we can sell things. Yet the big success story outside of search was social media. Yet nobody really foresaw that. So I think we are in a bubble. It will crash, but I don't worry about a bubble. I think a bubble is a good thing. And for the smart investor, there's a good way to make money on the way up and on the way down, and then the rebirth from the ashes of the bursting of that bubble. In terms of people not in, it's a personal choice. You're not missing out on anything by not being in. Anyone can live their life perfectly well, earning their money, putting it in the bank, and paying for things. Crypto is an investment opportunity right now, and in future it may be another way to transact. So anyone who's not involved, in the future they may use it to transact. The only thing they're missing out is an investment opportunity, but for most people it's not a good investment opportunity because it's volatile, risky, and scary. If people want to get involved, then the best thing to do is get a Coinbase account, get $50, £50, buy a bit of Ethereum, a bit of Litecoin, a bit of Bitcoin, get another wallet and move it and just get a feel for what it is. And then if you want to carry on, then cool. But no one should feel obliged to get involved in this. Like no one should feel obliged to invest in Forex or the stock market or commodities. It's more a personal choice.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad you brought up the Amazon and the internet bubble because I've done some research on that. And I definitely agree with you to where I think a lot of the coins that we're trading now and we're familiar now will fail. But I think a lot of coins like Monero, Ethereum, the coins that survive will just be huge because I think that'll be the future of business and the future of currency.
Well, the interesting things, Guy, you're 18. The first two guys interviewed on podcasts are 20 and 21. I've got a 13-year-old son. He never watches the TV in terms of a TV schedule. He watches YouTube and he watches, and he just surfs the net. He consumes TV in a way that's very different from when I grew up, where you had a TV guide and you knew what was on at 7 or 8 or whatever. He doesn't know a time of buying CDs. He will never buy a CD. He talks to Amazon Echo and out pops a song, any song he chooses. And what I've noticed is people like you and the other people I've spoke to, this crypto money just feels a little bit more normal and a bit more natural. And all the people who are against it, you've got your Warren Buffetts, your Jamie Dimons, your Mark Carneys, they're old school people. They're the same people who probably don't have Spotify or, would never use Tinder, who don't understand this kind of change to how people use the internet. So I'm kind of a little bit more. My confidence comes from the fact that so many young people use it, and they are essentially the youth are always our future, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that brings up a good point, and that's something that's really so special and drawn me in to the crypto space is you don't have to be experienced in trading or investing. You kind of just have to be hungry and just take time to learn, and you can really be successful and start to kind of grow.
You can, and there's so many people out there that will help you. There's a lot of people out there giving free advice and help. I do as best I can. There are a bunch of much smarter people out there giving help and advice. There's this guy, Crypto Cred. I think he's about 21, and he's putting out tutorials all the time for free. There's so much free advice out there. At the same, I tell you why I find this interesting, right? When I was 18, I didn't really want to do sixth form and didn't want to go to uni. I wanted to set up businesses, but it was kind of hard in that, to set up a business meant building some kind of infrastructure. But for people like you now, you don't have to go to university. You don't have to go to college, and spend 4 years learning a bunch of facts. You can, if you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, you just want to run a business, you can, for under $100 build. There's actually a book about that, the $100 startup. But you can actually go online, you can build a website, you can set up social platforms, you can network with people, and you can start earning money and building businesses online now. Whether it's buying and selling something on eBay or set up a drop shipping website, e-commerce, and putting out content. Anyone can go out there and create a business. There's never been a better time, and I think that's brilliant. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually started building websites for a couple of the people. The guy that cuts my hair, I built him just a simple WordPress website, and I've been making a little money that way.
That's cool, man. Are you going to college?
Yeah, I do actually plan on going to college. I'm not sure where I want to go yet, but we'll see what happens.
Do you know what you want to major in?
I definitely want to major in something with finance and economics. That's kind of what I spend most of my time reading about and learning about.
That's cool that you're in crypto then. And I guess one of the cool things, like when I went to uni, I had to get a job in a pub. I was paid about £3 an hour, which is about $4. And I would be there for like 4 or 5 hours every evening, pouring pints and serving food. Whereas you can probably sit in your dorm, do a few crypto trades, and they're just spending money for the week.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. So kind of talk about, you recently did an interview with Charlie Lee
Yep.
on your podcast. Just tell me about how cool that was to interview someone who's so high up in the crypto world.
Well, yeah, do you know what? It was really cool. And, he gets a lot of criticism, but anybody in any walk of life who makes any success of themselves will have people who find reasons to criticize them. Sometimes valid, sometimes not. You put yourself out there. You open yourself up to it. I mean, I've had it, and you'll get it. But I feel very fortunate. It came because of my third interview on the podcast with Checky Jameson Lopp, who's just a super cool guy. And afterwards, I just said, look, I know you know Charlie. Can you introduce me? And he said yes. So I reached out to Charlie through Jameson. Charlie agreed to do it. I did the interview at my friend's house in San Fran. He drove over to me. He's created a cryptocurrency that's worth billions of dollars, right? Let's just take a second to imagine that. He's created something that's worth billions of dollars, yet he made time for me, just a small guy with a small podcast, to come over and talk and help. And And I just think that's the kind of guy he is. I don't. Yeah, obviously it helps promote Litecoin, which is cool, and he wants to do. But also he's just willing to give his time out. It was a really cool interview. I really enjoyed doing it. I felt very relaxed. I felt he was very honest, and on a personal level, it was kind of like you're going to find this with your podcast. There's going to be times where you feel like you've stepped up. There's like a step up in what happens, and it's like, wow, getting the first episode out is a key step. Getting my interview with Jameson Lopp was a key step because this is an old school crypto person who's very well respected. Getting Charlie Lee was another step up for me because he is very popular. He's got a big following and he's done very well. And I'm always there trying to remember and be thankful for everyone who's helped along the way. Luke Martin was the first guy I interviewed. The fact that he gave me the time and agreed to be the first person on it, I'm really, truly grateful. And every person in between that. And I'm really grateful to my friend Rich Roll, who has a podcast, very successful podcaster who lives out in LA. And I'd asked him for a bit of advice and he just gave me everything I needed. I know if I messaged him now and said I need some help, he would do it. So I think it's a very cool, this modern world of a small independent media or organizations that you're doing, that I'm doing, that anyone's doing online. I think it's very cool how everyone is out there to help each other. It's not really competitive, right? Everyone just wants each other to be successful, and I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So what are a couple of things, you mentioned you have your son, you have a family. What are some things you do outside of crypto to kind of try to manage a balanced lifestyle?
Well, do you know what? It's funny. I don't have an intense life in terms of crypto. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the content and such. But I'm very fortunate in that I don't have a job where and I've had these before, right? I've had these shit jobs where you go and you're watching the clock all day. One of my first ever jobs, I used to hammer handles on umbrellas for 8 hours a day in a room with a bunch of women who used to make the cover for the umbrella, and none of them could speak English. And from hour one, I would be watching the clock, and then I would come up with little games to get through the day, like how many handles can I do in an hour, or 15. It's horrible. It was a crap life, and I know there are many people in the world who have jobs they don't enjoy, and it's hard work, right? I've been there, so I feel very fortunate to do what I do, in that I can pick my hours and I don't have to watch the clock, and therefore I don't have this weird imbalance whereby I think I'm overworking and I don't have what I need. That's firstly. That said, outside, what do I like to? I mean, I like to spend time with my kids. We like to go to the theatre. We've been to see Hamilton recently. Been to see Matilda and various things. We love to do that. I like to go running. I love going for a long run. Stick on a podcast and have a listen. Like to travel. I'm really fortunate with the podcast because I do all my podcast interviews in person. I get to travel, so I think I already have quite a balanced life actually, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Okay. So as far as the crypto space, where do you think we need to get to as far as adoption? What are some things that cryptocurrencies can do to get more people in?
Well, I guess that's a good question. It's not so much what cryptocurrencies can do, I think. I think it's what traditional infrastructure can do. I think one of the biggest steps will be integration of crypto into banks. So the banks, some of them are hesitant at the moment. I have had no luck in trying to open a bank account for my mining operation in the UK. Every bank I go to is rejecting me, whatever reason they give, whether it's because they say they can't track the money and they're worrying about money laundering, or they see it as a threat. That's going to have to change. The crypto train isn't going to stop for anyone. Once you have crypto wallets inside your online banking alongside your fiat accounts, this will be a huge step. This is why sometimes I say in some ways Coinbase is like the bank I want. I can log in, I can see my fiat account, I can see my Bitcoin account, my Litecoin account, my Ethereum. I consider my Vault as my savings account. Obviously, they don't have interest and they don't have mortgages and you can't create payments as such. But it looks like, for me, in terms of early experiences, what the future of a bank should be. So once banks start adding crypto alongside fiat accounts, I think that will be a huge step. The second step for me will be the adoption of crypto payments for e-commerce. So, you can pay with your debit or credit card, and it's pretty much universal. You have to pay with PayPal. I think the next step will be pay with crypto. So I didn't use PayPal for a very long time because the user experience for paying with PayPal wasn't better than paying with my card. But now I think it is actually. You click pay with PayPal, you log in, it's got all your details, and you just press a button and you pay, which is quicker than create an account and loading in your card details. It stops you having to have a single account on all these websites. So the PayPal experience is now superior on a number of websites to the debit card or credit card experience. Crypto needs to do the same. When you can go on to Amazon or Expedia and you click pay with crypto and it automatically logs into your wallet, you can quickly pay. I think that's going to make a big change. And I think one of the things that will help support that is it should, in theory, be cheaper to pay with crypto because the fees should be lower. So if you were going to buy a big ticket item like a TV and you could see the price for paying with debit and the price for paying with crypto, and you could see, well, actually, I'm going to save like 50 or £100 with crypto. I'm going to pay with crypto. So I think that's going to make a big difference as well.
Okay, and how far do you think we are away from the average user going online and paying with crypto versus PayPal or a debit card?
I think we're going. I can't put like a marker in the sand and say what's going to happen, but I think we're within the next couple of years. I think we're just going to see a whole flood of products coming into the market as coders, developers, investors want to build these products. Litecoin's got LitePay come in, Coinbase has got merchant account. You're gradually going to see these appear more and more. There's no specific time. It'll be just an evolution, I think.
Okay, definitely. And so I actually want to close with this question. Where do you see the crypto space being in 10 years, if you had to sum it up?
10 years. I mean, you know what? 10 years is a hard place to imagine because, in 10 years' time, we may not have taxis driven by humans in cities. Realistically, we have got driverless car technology Tesla, you can go on autopilot, right? We've got driverless car technology coming. So in 10 years, we might not have taxis driven by people. We might not have customer service run by people. It'd be run by AI. So technology is going to bring so many different changes. My expectation is that within 10 years, crypto will just be a natural part of the monetary system alongside fiat. So we will have choices when we're paying for things. We will have choices to pay in crypto or in fiat. In terms of outside of that, in protocols and dApps, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be proven whether these protocols and dApps will be used widely. I'm sure they will. It seems like the programmable money side of Ethereum has a lot of interest. That I can't predict. But I think in terms of currencies, I think crypto payments within 10 years will just be a natural part of our financial systems.
All right, guys, that's all for the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed talking to Peter. As always, please make sure to support the podcast, whether that be subscribing on iTunes and leaving a review, leaving a like on SoundCloud, or simply sharing it with your friends via social media. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to follow me on Twitter @TheCryptoSky and shoot me a quick DM, or simply email me at thecryptosky@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.